Quite often, to improve an Olympic lift, a client is taught the squat. I just want to show you the squat in action and sort of talk you through what we see, and then you'll see why we've developed the exercises we have for you to try to improve the squat for your client. Now, the key in the squat is depth. On our other courses, we talk about the skill of vertical displacement down, and that's kind of what this is. The squat we're looking at here is one where we keep the shoulders in full flexion, abduction and external rotation, with the idea being that that's the position they're going to end up in both exercises. And although the depth here wouldn't really be seen in either maybe the snatch, but it's good to get to that extreme to show how the body can cope, see if the body can cope. Now, the idea is that we want to keep that center of gravity central. We don't really want energy to escape in a plane other than the sagittal, but we know that movement is going to occur elsewhere. So what you'll see here is that using the research you'll have found in the book, we've asked our client to take a stance that's just a natural neutral stance. And then in that natural neutral stance, you'll see that there's a slight external rotation on the right leg compared to the left. There's a slight tilt off to the left, and then that's compensated for with more abduction on the left shoulder, less on the right. And so as you see this squat, the first thing we see, so these moves, is that you see there's a straightening of the bar. And then everything contracts ready, and then we start. And so in order to bend at the knees, what we've got here is we've got an external rotation of both femur. So both femur externally rotate, but the right one travels further than the left. And that's partly down to that externally rotated foot that can happen, and it's partly down to our client favouring that left leg. So you see the drop continues through that external rotation until we reach this point here. And then what happens is that we get to a point where we start to drop, but we start to see that the knees start to travel in slightly, especially the right. And so that drop in through eversion, that's where we're getting the last component of that squat coming through the body. And so quite often, one of the tips we'll give our clients is that at the top of the squat, without lifting your foot, just try and keep your weight on the outside of your foot. And then as you squat down, when you reach the point where you have no more squat, then just release that pressure from the outside and let it roll to the inside. Now in their brain, they might be trying to keep their knee in line with their toe and all that kind of stuff. We don't want that to happen. We just want their legs to do what they do. So you'll see as we get deeper into this squat, and this is a decent squat, you'll see now both knees are starting to come in, which is a sign that we're starting to evert down at the foot. It's this eversion that's going to grab the glute, which it does, and then on the way back up here, look, you'll see that the knees start to come back, the pelvis starts to drive forward, and the great thing there is that what we've done is we took advantage of the feet going back into inversion and pushing plantar flexion, and we've taken advantage of that sort of grab into the glute in the transverse plane that we talk about on two of the lifts. Now all the time this is happening, there's hardly anything happening in the upper body. So what you're seeing in the upper body is just a control. Now there's a little bit of sway left and right, just controlling that bar as the force pushes the pelvis through. And there's a really strong requirement for having the ability to handle tension through the spine as our client makes her way up. And so it's important when we train this squat that we teach the body to be able to get into that position to start, to be able to hold that position from the pelvis up with like a real good stillness and control of lateral motion, to be able to grab through the foot right at the bottom end of their movement to get to the glute and also provide some depth to the squat. It's at that point that you start to see that you'll see here, look, there's a rock from heels to toe, and that's the midfoot going into dorsiflexion. And as we drop just a bit further, we start to get dorsiflexion at the ankle as well. And then on that push out, that's when we start to get the plantar flexion and everything else happening. And so what we want is good movement in the lower body and the upper body to be able to resist motions coming from all directions at it as the bar moves and wavers, as we produce different forces from the right leg and the left leg. And so we'll put together some exercises on here that you can have a look at that we might use to help keep the foot free so these motions can happen, to get the shoulders moving, to drive forces, to teach the spine to be able to decelerate all different kinds of motions hitting it. We'll show you that too, and those exercises will come together to help improve this squat, and each exercise will look like the squat. The idea is that if you improve this squat, then that's going to then move across and improve your performance in your lifts, and obviously that's something that we're going for, but quite often people use squat as a staple exercise anyway, so it's a great exercise to be able to pull apart yourself and then use with your clients.